Good day, our names are David Abono and Balemba. We are in the Youth Advocacy Network Club in BGS Moloko Grammar School, Moloko Boya. We are in Form 3A and we study poverty. Poverty is one of the most delicate problems that we have here in Cameroon, and it brings problems between families and many homes. It renders some people homeless and other children not going to school due to poverty. The country cannot be developed. Due to that, job services cannot be rendered to so many people. Furthermore, people will be jobless, and that makes many people to suffer, and the poor will not have freedom of speech. And we are going to hear more from the principal of Balemba Grammar School, Moloko Boya, and also we will know how poverty affects Boya, especially students and family as a whole. Now we're going to witness an interview. Hi madam, our names are Abono David and here is Balemba Begumaka. We are in the Youth Advocacy Network Club here in BGS Moloko and we study poverty. We would like to know what you do, what's your position in this school?
I am the principal of the school, or the head teacher as some people say.
Okay. There are some certain questions we would like to ask you because we know you are in a better position to tell us more about poverty in Cameroon. Firstly, I would like to say, what is poverty and how is it caused?
What is poverty? When I think about poverty, I think about not having enough of the basic necessities of life, enough food to eat, a proper shelter to live in, and not earning enough to be able to meet needs of your kids if you are working, if you are a parent, their educational needs and things like that. So in other words, I would define poverty as not having enough to be able to have the basic necessities of life. Okay.
Our next question. How does poverty affect education, students, teachers and families?
How does poverty affect education first? You know, as a student, you need your school uniform, you need to pay registration fees, you need books, you need to come to school, probably you live far away and therefore you need money to pay your taxi and your taxi fare to come to school and go back home. You need something to be able to eat during break time. Now, if your parents cannot give you, those are basics, because I'm not talking here about excesses. If your parents can't give you that, if you need to walk to school in the morning, 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, and back, and you don't even have something to eat during break, you don't have your textbooks, you don't have your exercise books, your uniform is falling out of your body, it's worn out, and your parents can't change it, then you begin to feel and know that you're a poor student, isn't it? So it will affect your education because you wouldn't have the tools that you need to be able to study properly. That's the first thing. The other thing, which may be more subtle, is that you may begin to feel out of place. You may begin to feel that you do not belong because you see most of your friends at break time going to have something nice to eat and you can't afford it. So it may make the student to also withdraw from the others because he's feeling out of place. If you have to wear your pair of uniform for 3 years and it is becoming whitish instead of blue, your jacket, then you begin to feel out of place. So besides not having what you need, it may also affect the way you relate with your classmates. Okay, so those are ways in which poverty can affect education. Then when you leave the school, you may be quite intelligent and you want to go on for further education. Now your parents may not be able to pay your fees. You may not have somebody to be able to sponsor you to go and get further education that you need. So it may limit how far you go with your education. Okay? So I've said you may not have your school requirements. You may not be able to associate enough with your classmates because you feel out of place. You may not be able to further your education to the level that you would like to go because of poverty. So poverty can be a limitation to your education, your attainment. For many people, for some people actually it's a sport, but there are very few of such people.
Next, how does poverty affect families?
It affects families in very, very many ways. I'll take a few examples. It can disrupt families. I've heard stories of women who have left their husbands because they couldn't provide enough for them, and they thought that the husband didn't just care, so it caused a split in the family. Children die, people die because they cannot pay for their medical bills. You know, you are sick, but your father, instead of sending you to the hospital to consult, he doesn't have 2,500 for you to buy the hospital book and to pay the consultation fee before you even see the medical doctor. So he decides to go to the wayside medical drugstores and to see quacks, and he doesn't get you enough medication, and he doesn't even get you the right medication, you see. So you cannot have medical, so it can result in death in very many cases. It can cause some children who see what they like and they cannot afford it, so they decide to steal. They join the wrong gangs. People will tell you that, okay, if you just work for us a little, we can give you some extra money. So they start gambling and they start joining gangs and things like that. So it can cause a lot of havoc to people.
Okay, next. How does poverty affect Boya especially?
Boya. In Boya, I don't know if poverty affects people very, very badly. I'll tell you the reason why. In Boya is so fertile, the soil, and so most people can plant some few plantains behind their homes and have a little farm, so that helps to augment what they have to eat. Okay, so Boya is not one of those towns where you see a lot of destitute people because of the fertility of the soil. And Boya is a small town, so you would normally have maybe a relation or somebody somehow that you could visit if you were hungry and have some food to eat. Yes, but there are still a few people who really have it rough here. I've not seen many people sleeping on the streets in Boya yet. That's what I mean. But I think there are quite a number of people who are suffering, even here in Boya. And I know of a couple of students who have had problems, who have had to come and speak to somebody in the administration. They can't pay for a holiday class, or they can't have their books and things like that. So it does affect people even in Boya, although Boya is a smaller town and therefore the effects of poverty is not so felt.
Last question. What are the major things we can do to stop poverty in Canada?
Good. That's a very good question. One, I think that we have to find a proper benefit sharing mechanism in the nation that takes into consideration everybody. So for example, since we are talking about education, we are an educational institution, I look forward to the government taking on the responsibility of providing textbooks for students. So if you came to the school, you didn't need to, your parents don't need to buy. So every child in a class would have a textbook, and possibly leave those books for the next set of students coming when they move on to the next class. So if, for example, our Ministry of Secondary Education started a book policy that provided textbooks for students in the school, that would help. That would help a lot, because students will not have the excuse of not doing their homework or studying properly, since everybody has. That is one thing that the government could do. Talking about benefit sharing. I think also that the government could start a process of having students graduates serve the nation probably for 1 year, where they are not on a salary but they're on a little allowance, to bring about a culture of giving back to the nation. Because we have another serious problem in the nation, which is not just, we have poverty, that is one of it. But many people think that they must have a job that pays them a lot of money, and very few of us are thinking about how we can help our nation, doing something for our nation. So if we could do that, it will help to reduce. So if, for example, you graduated from university and in your class, and you had to go and put low-cost houses by offering your labor, and the government only had to provide the materials, and the person who is an architect who can supervise you, then you'll be doing something for poor people. The labor will be free, for example, and then many more people will have beautiful houses to live in, without the state having to spend so much money to give to housing companies to build houses. Are you getting me? So that's what I mean by benefit sharing. We should have projects in the nation that actually go out to help people who do not have enough. Even in our healthcare, is it possible for us to have a healthcare that really addresses the issue of people who are sick and who cannot provide? Instead of you getting to the hospital and you have a very serious ailment, for example, you have a ruptured appendix and you need an operation, but your parents have to go around looking for money before the operation begins. Are you getting me? So I think that there are things that we can do as a nation to be able to support the general people, and I think we need to develop that and start putting that into practice. That will help people more. That's what I think.
Thank you very much.
And welcome to the conclusion of this interesting video. We all know that poverty is one of the most basic problems that we have here in Cameroon. As we have all heard from the principal of Balemba Grammar School, how poverty is caused and how it can be eradicated. So I hope that I say that all Cameroonians, they should take their bookworm seriously. And this includes the whole world, that they should take their bookworm seriously and make the world a better place to live. Once more, our names are David and Balemba Bekumaka, and this has been a program on poverty. Thank you.